what is the place of the opposition party? You may be hearing of Bola Tinubu and the APC, Atiku Abubakar and the PDP, Peter Obi and the Labour Party, Robbie Kwankwaso and the NNPP. But what about the other political parties? Are they in this race? What mark will they make as campaigns resume tomorrow? And that's one of our focus tonight on the program before we go into the matters relating to the People's Democratic Party. I'm being joined by the presidential candidate of the ADC, Mr. Dumebi Kachikwu. Thank you so much indeed for coming tonight.
Thanks for having me, Sean.
You've seen different polls that are coming out. There are those who believe that this is an election year for the Nigerian youth. And I do believe that based on the figures that we're seeing, indeed, it will be the opportunity for young Nigerians to exercise their numbers and stamp it, their authority on the electoral map. That is if they come out. But more than before, it has always been a two-horse race. I'm not sure in the almost 7 election cycles that we've experienced since 1998 up to now that we have seen more than a 3-horse race. It's always been a 2-horse race. Maybe in 2007 or 2011, maybe we saw a 3-4-horse race, but it's been 2-horse race. Do you see yourself in this race?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you started by talking about the place of the Nigerian youths in this election. And you must first of all understand that Buhari was brought in 7 years ago, a little over 7 years ago, by the same Nigerian youths. Okay, so the role Nigerian youths play in our electoral space is not new. Will they vote? Yes, they will vote. Will they vote in the right direction? That's the question. But a lot of people blame Nigerian youths, driven by social media strategy. They brought in Buhari and they took out President Jonathan. So it's not like they haven't voted, but it's about voting in the right direction. Did they vote in the right direction on President Buhari? History will tell us. But there's nothing new about what we see today. The only thing different is the fact that political parties like mine now have an opportunity to tell Nigerians or sell Nigerians a different narrative. Whereas in previous elections, we never had time. From primaries, you have just less than 2 months to get into poll dates. So small parties or fringe parties don't have the resources to go around the country against candidates or parties that have a brand name all over the country. So if you were to ask most Nigerians today about the ADC, some will know the ADC, some will not know the ADC. But most Nigerians know APC and PDP, and also Labour. Why do they know Labour? Because if you look at these parties, their candidates are people who have ruled us forever. Obi, governor, 2 terms. Atiku, vice president, 2 terms. Kwankwaso, governor, right? Asiwaju, governor, and also APC leader forever, right? So they are in the news all the time. They've been there in that space. So Nigerians know them. So when you have people like me who come up, before people get to know us, it's going to take a while. So that's the obstacle before us. But my campaign, what am I doing? I plan to go across the country. I plan to let Nigerians hear me, let Nigerians see me, let Nigerians know that there's an alternative, a credible alternative. And then when Nigerians go to the polls next year, if they decide they want to go with the same old political parties and those people, then they've made a choice based on what they've heard and what they've seen.
You mentioned the likes of Muhammadu Buhari, and on the 4th try, he became president. This is your first time of wanting to be Nigeria's president. Do you see it as this a try, perhaps, maybe a test case for you to have another try next time to give you a better opportunity?
Absolutely not. I'm running a race to win the race. I don't believe Nigeria can afford to have any of these other people be in the saddle next year. I believe that our diversities have been magnified to an alarming level. where anything can happen and we might not even witness the elections. I believe that we failed spectacularly in all key sectors, that all indices that point to failure of a nation are already existing in Nigeria. So if we were to give these people an opportunity to continue, I don't believe we'll have a nation worth living in. It's already difficult as at today. Inflation at 20%, unofficially, probably double that. Someone who probably earns 50,000 naira cannot survive on 50,000 naira in 1 week. So we watch these things happen. We don't realize the effects on the common man. Over 100 million people living on the bottom rung of the ladder. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't even know what's going to happen when we leave this studio. We don't know if that's when breaking point will come. So I can't afford to take that risk. That's why I want to run a race. I want to do the best by me, by my party, by Nigerians. Go out, give my very best shot to this.
All right.
I'm not running.
You have the resources to do that.
Tell you
it takes a lot to run a campaign, isn't it?
Absolutely, Shane.
This nation is very big.
This nation is big. The biggest challenge is that 90% of those you interact with in running this campaign are there, they are there because they want to feed off the process. So it is very, very difficult, but ultimately, when you start speaking to people, people understand, you know what, short term is not as good as long term. Long term is for us to make Nigeria work. It's very expensive. My campaign has gotten no funding. I am funding, but what I have more than anything else is the goodwill of people within my party and Nigerians who I come across every day.
And I ask you this. We've seen a lot of the times, and I'll mention to you several names that comes to mind. As early as 2000 and even 1999, 2003, 2007, we've seen names of people whom you will imagine that we just wish this person is our president. And the likes of the late Gani Fawehinmi, when he entered into the race. The steer was, everybody thought that it was going to cause a steer. Dele Momodu's of this world were in the race. I mean, we've had the Feladro Toyes of this world. Showore came into the fray. I mean, and you can go on and on and on and on and mention very erudite Nigerians who have also thrown their heart in the ring. Patu Tomi, name them. Try their best to run in the race. It has been a race that has been taken over by the mighty of the political class in this country. Those who have the deep pocket, the political parties that have the spread and the structure. The question is, why are the so-called fringe parties not able to unite? In 2019, there was a war between these fringe parties, and they couldn't align themselves. They couldn't work together. This time around again, it does look like the big parties again have taken the center stage. The fringe parties are operating in silos. Why is this lesson not sinking for the so-called fringe parties, for them to come together and have a common front? Are you thinking in that direction? Are you able to work with, for example, a Labour Party's Peter Obi? If you look at the poll, another poll came out today to say he's about 50% ahead of the others in the race. There was two other polls that says that he's in the lead, and in fact, the election might not be concluded on the first ballot. There was another poll that said, oh, if the election were conducted that day, Peter Obi could win. Are you thinking in that direction of working together with other political parties?
Big question, lots of permutations, but let me put it this way. I'm happy you mentioned the likes of Gani Fawehinmi, Dele Momodu, and all these people who ran before. We run a race not against the other political parties. We run a race against Nigerians. That's the truth. The Nigerian people have this thing, they're caught up in this thing called Nigerian syndrome. They have this affinity for their captors, those who have enslaved them for so long. They find it difficult to break loose from these people. So you have to keep on pushing at it, knocking on that door, trying to quack them out of this bubble, this slave, this prison that they are in. But tell you what, we have never been in a situation like this where all the economic indices, where Nigeria has failed so spectacularly, where the people, where the people just need to say to themselves, you know, we can't continue like this. It's never been this bad. But then again, you mentioned parties, smaller parties coming together, fringe parties coming together. But when you mention fringe parties, you mention the likes of Labour and this and that. Tell you what, it's not about small parties. It's about those who've ruled us, P2B, Kachikwu, and Asiwaju, and those who've never ruled before. That's the difference. When we try and lump some of them with us, it's more of the same. So will someone like SDP or Showaré, will we consider working together? Absolutely. We speak. What can we do together? How can we ensure that the media does a better job? The media has done a spectacular job in this political dispensation. How can they help us better? That's what we are discussing. Are we going to align with those who've held political office, who we see like Labour, PDP, and APC? We see them as one block. We don't see them as part of us.
So, for example, I'm looking at that map and the permutation there. Well, it's a poll that came together, put together by, conducted by We Together, and that's on one of the polls that I've conducted and that's been conducted in the past few days. If you look at it, the candidate of the Labour Party, 51%. 25% of Atiku Abubakar of the PDP, 19% if elections were conducted on the day as when that poll was conducted, these were the result that how Nigerians were going to vote. Now, Labour Party would have been considered in this kind of conversation without Peter Obi as a fringe party. So the question is, why are you not considering a Labour Party that would have come into the same definition or description as your party?
Okay, so let me start with the polls first of all. If you were to ask PDP or APC about these polls, they will tell you, give me 24 hours and I'll give you my own poll that shows that I am leading or that shows that they are leading. So these polls, people believe that these polls are just cooked and to serve the benefit of whoever is paying them. That's what most people believe. So we discountenance them.
So you think that this poll is sponsored by Labour Party and Peter?
I'm not saying, I'm just telling you what people believe, right? So, I mean, I have not looked at the polls. I have not conducted any polls. But if I were to conduct polls, I dare say that these polls will not give me the numbers I've seen on the screen. Again, back to the conversation. Why won't we come together with Peter Obi, Labour, and see him as part of the smaller parties? Simply because there's no difference between a Peter Obi and Atiku Abubakar and Asiwaju. They are part of the old political order. There are people who've held office. They are more of the same, have got absolutely nothing to offer. So there's no reason why we should say we come together for the purpose of power. I'm not in this because I seek power desperately. Absolutely not. I'm in this because I believe my country desperately needs change. My country desperately needs salvation. So if we were to say we are looking for power for the sake of power, we'll consider any alignment just to get power. But that's not why we are in this
Why
race.
do you think Labour Party or Peter Obi is resonating with some Nigerians to the point that Labour Party says the rallies you see on the street are not sponsored or backed by Labour Party? They're just individuals who came together on their own supporting the Labour Party and Peter Obi.
Well, we've also seen people who said, like the rally we saw in Port Harcourt and also in Abuja, people who said, oh, they were paid 2,000 naira to be in those rallies. I believe that there are genuine Nigerians out there who are definitely supporting Labour and pushing for Peter Obi. So there's a Peter Obi movement. But let me remind you, 8 years ago, 7 to 8 years ago, there was a similar movement in Nigeria for President Buhari by the same Nigerians, by the same Nigerian youth, by the same people. They want change. When people want change, anything seems like change to them until it then dawns on them that they were probably scammed or they didn't think about it properly, right? So I don't see anything different with what's happening now and what happened then. But Nigerians want something, want a breath of fresh air. Anything that looks like a breath of fresh air is better than where they are right now.
So are we to expect a coalition from the, in quotes, the fringe parties? Is it possible? Is it going to happen?
It is possible because, like I said, the likes of SDP, Showore, there are background conversations happening to see how we can cooperate to ensure that we are heard, that we are seen, that we are able to share resources. No conversation has been had about cooperating in terms of the polls, right? No conversation has been had in regards to that. Does it make sense? If you find those who have the same value systems you have, those who believe in the same ideals, does it make sense for you guys to cooperate? Absolutely. It happens all over the world. But until we get there, when we get to that bridge, we'll cross that bridge. But
I'll ask you some two quick questions.
Yeah.
Do you think there could be an upset in this election?
Absolutely.
To what extent do you think this upset will be?
So let me tell you what. As we approach the elections, like I said to you earlier on, Nigeria is sitting on a keg of gunpowder. It might happen any day. A lot of people feel it. There's fear. That's why people are leaving Nigeria in droves every blessed day. Something's about to give in Nigeria. When this happens, people will realize, how did we get here? People will say to themselves, never again. None of these people will never give anyone who's held office, who's been a governor 8 years, got nothing to show for it, who's held office and has got nothing to show for this. Never again. People will start realizing that, you know what, we're a nation of sinners looking for a saint. There's no saints. We have to realize that collectively we can change Nigeria. We should stop depending on looking for an individual who will change Nigeria for us. At that point, Nigerians will come together and rescue their country.
So one thing that I like to get from you, when you say upset, so there would be naturally the thinking that there is a ruling political party that is seeking to retain power. There will be a PDP that was in power 9 years ago that is seeking to return to power. And there is a Labour Party that has some rave and some connection with some Nigerians, causing the kind of stir that the Labour Party and PWB is causing presently. So one will wonder that if there will be an upset, it probably will be the man who is seen at the third leg against the established political institution that we have already in Nigeria. Do you think that the upset could be out of these three major political parties that have been mentioned?
Absolutely. Tell you what, right? Campaign's about to start. When the show begins, Nigerians will get to see. The issues will be discussed. Nigerians who feel the pain of Nigeria on a daily basis will start seeking to hear questions, solutions to their daily problems. At that point, I would like to see if the polls you see today are the same polls you will see then. Campaign's about to start. People cannot shy away from difficult questions anymore. People cannot fluff questions and people won't ask them. People will get to hear everyone in the race. People will start making up their minds. Finally, on this, let me say this. For too long, the vocal minority has had their say and their way in Nigeria. This race will be determined by the silent majority. You don't hear them. They are not part of any polls. They see, they are watching, and they are prepared to take back their country. This race will be determined by those people.
From politics is science, I always say this. When there is, it's like a sale of good. When there is a buyer and there is a seller, it's a commodity. The vote is like a commodity. The person who is being voted for is the one on the receiving end, and the person who is voting is the one that is giving. And there is something that is being sold at a price, which is the trust. Now, it's a trust that is being exchanged. The person giving the vote is giving the vote in trust, and the power is going to be the trust in which the person takes. Now, the question is, how much of a trust can Nigerians have in the so-called untested, those who have had silent track records? I mean, that's why it's a silent track record. I'm not saying they don't have track records. How much of that trust can Nigerians have their destiny handed over to these silent track record holders?
Good, very good question. So what Nigerians are saying to themselves now is that for decades, we've trusted those with public records of failure. Now, we better trust those with silent track records of success. That's what Nigerians are saying to themselves. No longer will Nigerians say to themselves, oh, because he was a local government chairman, oh, because he was a commissioner, oh, because of the... And they now realize that those people who held those positions, they never did anything with those positions. So now they're looking for people. In fact, Nigerians are saying, you hear them saying now, even a housewife who manages 30,000 naira with a family of 7 is a better manager of resources than the people in government today. And that's a truism.
Give Nigerians some news tonight, and perhaps something they might be able to sleep over. For sure, or is it for a joke, this possibility of you guys working together? Nigerians want alternative. They want options. For so long, they've not had that. In their economic life, they've not had that. In their security, they've not had that. They are looking for an option now, an alternative, where they can be able to choose what that can better their lives. Are you guys for real that we can take it home tonight, that you guys are possible to work together and give Nigerians some alternative?
I am telling you for a fact that the likes of ADC, the likes of SDP, the likes of the Show Race Party, that we're having background conversations on how we can have shared resources, how we can have a common strategy to counter those we see as having destroyed our country for decades. We're having those conversations. Those conversations might lead to how we can then wrest power from these people. But first and foremost, we have to show Nigerians that there is a credible alternative. That's what we must first and foremost do. When Nigeria starts saying that, then you then have to look at how do you share, how do you galvanize resources? Because tell you what, it's going to be extremely difficult if you think it's going to be easy to tell these guys, these men, these people who've held us captive for decades to say, going through retirement. It's not going to be easy at all.
If the election does not go in the offset permutation that you have predicted tonight, would you be disappointed?
Tell you what, ultimately, what I will say to myself at the end of this, if it doesn't work the way I expected, is this. I gave Nigerians an opportunity to hear different, to see different, to know what could be possible. I'll be happy I did that.
Will you be back?
Will I be back? After I've done that, I will never be like the candidates who came out, who didn't work, and who went back to sleep. I will always fight for Nigeria.
All right. Thank you so much, Dumedi Kachikwu, the presidential candidate of the ADC. Thank you, and I wish you the very best. It's a marathon, different from any race that we have seen in our election history in this country. It will be long, it will be painstaking, and also it might be tiring, but I wish you the very best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.